Whoa,
Oh, I'm
whoa,
gonna
hey,
go ahead and name
easy.
drop. I'm gonna name drop Richard Hunt.
We don't want to get the
Bring it on, Hexicans.
Mexicans. Don't piss off the
I
Hexicans.
love this term, Hexicans. It's just like so offensive towards Mexicans somehow.
Hello, everybody. This is Melo and my good friend and co-founder Sasha from, you guessed it, Arcanum Ventures, back with another now famous 10-minute eye test where we dive into the latest launches in the Web3 blockchain crypto space, whatever you want to call it. And this week, we almost missed this launch. We were looking at a few others, but one of our community members actually brought it to our attention. So without further ado, we're going to dive in and choose Sei Network, the latest layer 1 to launch in blockchain. So Sasha's just pulled up this wonderful CryptoRank article because we weren't able to find it on CryptoRank itself, at least not launch information. But
yeah, so I guess before we start the clock, because I don't know anything about Sei. It's not IDOing, it's not ICOing, as far as I know, but it's a new layer 1 that's launching on Binance, Bitfinex, and more. And so, without diving too deep into it, I think I just wanted to show this to explain, this is where it came from. There's not a lot of news on our radar about this, but it seems like it could be pretty big. So, I guess we'll start the clock and then just dive into the website and see what we could find out. What do you think?
Yeah, why not? We got nothing but time to learn about this because I'm a little bit ignorant about Sei, to be honest. So that's why we almost missed it. I think I was still thinking about Sui and Aptos, but there's a lot of layer 1s launching this year, and not to mention layer 2s as well.
Yeah,
so
we've got layer 1 fever, right?
In.
And I think a lot of VCs are backing layer 1s because it seems like historically the best chance for a moonshot. I'm a little bit concerned that it sounds, or it's even spelled very similar to Sei Network. That's a kind of strange choice of name. But I guess we'll see how it's different from Sei and all the other layer 1s. I suspect there's not going to be a lot of difference. It's probably just going to be hey, we have endless scalability and low transaction fees. And then maybe there's going to be some sort of chart comparing it to other blockchains, all the other layer 1s.
Oh yeah, you got to have the comparison chart.
Yeah, exactly.
Or else nobody will know
you're
why
not
you're
legit if you don't have a comparison chart. Let's be honest, everybody.
I think I saw that this was built on Cosmos SDK, so it's going to be a Cosmos. I don't know if parachain is the right word. I know that's Polkadot ecosystem, but so they're going to be using that proof of stake. Yeah, I think you have a good prediction. I'm going to guess that the amount of transactions per second, is going to be massive because otherwise there's not really a huge use case for more layer 1. So you have to do something special. So it's going to either be carbon neutral because maybe that's going to be a growing narrative. People are not happy with non-proof of stake networks, but yeah, maybe really high throughput, a lot of transactions per second. I'm trying to think of the use case for this because Solana, has a lot of TPS, but there's not really a need for that type of throughput, at least not right now, unless you're talking about trading. And even that, it's kind of a very niche idea for a network.
That is a good prediction, I think. This narrative around energy consumption is a big one, so I like that one. The transactions per second, this is just almost like an ego contest at this point. Yeah, people are they're oh, look at my 60 million transactions per second. Do we need that yet? I don't know, but I guess we'll find out. And I'll go ahead and start the clock. We can dive into the website. Starting meow. Okay. Boom. Sei Network. Enabling mass adoption of digital assets.
All right.
Haven't heard that one before.
I'm going to say it that this website looks kind of disappointingly boring, and it looks a lot like Solana's network, but Solana's website, but a lot less exciting. They have that same bar at the bottom with some of the stats. I do like that they have explore the ecosystem and start building are the main call to action. So, ecosystem is always a good way to see what kind of traction they have before they even
Yeah,
launch.
that's
Start building. I don't know what that button's funneling people towards building on day one. I don't know who's building on the network at
we'll
all.
click
So
on it.
maybe
All
we can
right. I
check out
just
one of
want to
those.
show, look, right front and center, 20,000 orders per second. I don't think I've heard orders per second before. So OPS. But it kind of makes me think, like, if they're doing orders per second, that sounds like trading talk. So is this a network that's geared to trading? And then,
Yep,
yeah, 500 millisecond
that's what it sounds
transaction
like.
finality. Transaction finality is very important if you're talking about decentralized trading. So maybe that's what it's for. But before we dive in, you know what? Let's check out the ecosystem, shall we? Boom.
Yeah.
Let's see what they say. Well, they've got Andromeda, Apollo DAO, Band Protocol. Looks like a lot of different projects here.
Yeah, pretty large stable of partners in the ecosystem. I would imagine that from a layer one that's about to launch, but it's good to see because I think you and I have both seen some layer twos and layer ones that, they're built really well. They seem to solve all of the major issues with layer ones and address some of the issues in unique ways of solving the trilemma, but they have no traction. They have no one wanting to build, and maybe they don't have a foundation that's capable of giving grants, because we've seen that grants given by foundations for layer ones are like the main way to bring people into the
Yeah.
network. So I'm curious to see how they're onboarding partners and what they're going to do in the future to incentivize people to build on their network.
We see some very familiar names here, like our good friends at Ferrum Network. I saw Commonwealth. I'm wondering if that's the Commonwealth you and I know. I doubt it. And then there's some wallets, there's some DeFi protocols, there's some exchanges. There's a lot of interesting things. And what I'm wondering is, for a brand new network, Sei Network, I'm not so familiar with Sei Network. I don't know how long they've been around, if they've had a development hub for a while, but I'm wondering if these partners or ecosystem backers are basically announcing commitments for these companies to build on the network, or if they've actually launched dApps. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I can't imagine anything's live yet, but I know they've been making partnership announcements because I've been hearing the name Sei kicking around for a little bit. Okay, so they got OKX, some exchange partners. I do tell you one thing. One, I don't know if this is ever wrong, but investing in the first DEX to launch on a new network seems like it's always like an interesting moonshot potential too, because people need a place to transact. So like, I think I saw SushiSwap was gunning
Yeah, there
for
you go.
that top spot in the Sei network.
I bet they love
So
announcing that.
I don't know if that
Pumps
pumps
some
the value of
bodies
their
up.
coin though.
Wormhole.
Yeah. Actually, I think they bought somebody out. I think SushiSwap bought the person or the company making the DEX for
That's a
Sei
pretty good
Network,
business
so
move.
it
I'm
was an
wondering, is
acquisition.
this is not the wormhole that was hacked? Solana wormhole, couple of or was it last year? Was it?
Yeah. Uh, it's not just Solana. I mean, Wormhole is still around. It's still kicking and it's still connecting. I don't know. I haven't been following too closely, but it apparently survived. And
Interesting.
Yeah,
And they've got a Sei Liquidity Alliance, uniting builders and trusted market makers in DeFi. And I'm wondering, what does a liquidity alliance actually mean? I'm wondering if this makes up a good portion of the DeFi aspect of the protocol, or if maybe they are early financial backers in providing liquidity for launch or something of that nature.
It might just be a way to flex and say we don't have one market maker, like which is typical for most projects. Like we have an alliance of 10 plus, because these are some of the bigger market making names in the industry. So it makes sense that layer ones need a whole hell of a lot more liquidity. So it's not a big surprise.
That is a good point. It's almost like like just a advertising, like a banner, or like a sign on the big sign or billboard on the highway. So, what I'm curious in, Carmelo, is like, what does the token look like? What does what does the tech look like? So maybe we could dive into some technical stuff. I saw a link somewhere for a white paper, and I'm wondering. Here we
Yes,
go.
probably
Okay, so
docs.
docs. We've got, um, unfortunately, a Git book. But what I'm seeing here, the layer one for trading. So I guess we were right. Open source layer one blockchain offering the best
Wow.
infrastructure for the exchange of digital assets. And that makes sense when it comes to the high TPS or OPS and the very, very low finality. But, in my understanding of layer one networks, it's difficult to reach those types of metrics without a fair amount of centralization, right?
Hmm. Yeah, that's usually the case. But yeah, you clicked on the right button. Like, I'm curious to see what it takes to run a node. I mean, it's a proof of stake network, so you're not going to have to set up hardware like a proof of work network. But yeah, just staking your a certain amount of tokens, I imagine, to be able to run a node. I don't know how many nodes they have or they anticipate having in the first year, but that's also interesting. Or if that price is dynamic. It's not like I know Ethereum has a set price, but I'm curious to see if anybody has a dynamic one in place, like a bonding curve almost, where the more nodes people want to run, the less lucrative they are,
That's
or
a
the
very
more
good
expensive
point.
they are.
I hope it's not like something just simple, like I this. It reminds me of this sort of like cheap virtual machine configuration that was it Hex, or the Richard Hart's project used that turned out to be a complete sham.
Whoa,
Oh, I'm
whoa,
gonna
hey,
go ahead and name drop.
easy.
I'm gonna name drop Richard Hunt.
We don't want to get the
Bring it on, hexicans.
hexagons. Don't piss off
I
the
love
hexagon.
I love this term hexicans. It's just like so offensive towards Mexicans somehow. Okay, joining a network, and so there's a lot of technical stuff here, but I don't see anything regarding like limitations for running a node. But that'll be interesting to figure out, like, what's the barrier of entry for being a node operator, validator, etc. A non-zero balance. I hope that's not it. All right. Well, let's see what we can find out about the token. I'm wondering if there's anything regarding tokenomics here. But I do see this Token Factory. I haven't heard this token standard before. Offers a standardized mechanism for creating fungible tokens, which are interchangeable and identical. These tokens can embody various digital assets like voting rights, virtual currencies, or staking tokens. They're also native SDK coins and come with a variety of native functionality. Is that bespoke or unique to Sei Network, do you think?
No, I mean, maybe it's unique in the fact that the network actually has its own, but every network has some mechanism to create fungible tokens quite easily. But the easier you make that, the better. And if this is targeted towards traders, I'm wondering if it's going to empower people to sort of like skirt regulation and create their own securities or, you know, ETFs even. Like if this is trading centric, like maybe people are just going to be creating their own financial instruments in mass and could be pretty interesting if this becomes like a new financial hub
That
for
is very
blockchain.
true. And so I guess, one of the very important things I think in adoption of Sei Network as a major player in the trading economy and cryptocurrency, right, would be the partnerships and the traction that they can get. And so I think that's kind of everything. It comes down to like, how are they going to bring traders on board? How are they going to build trust in the security of the network for people to hold their assets on this network in a safe and secure way and trade them back and forth? Because as far as I know, this is not addressing some massive need in the industry that's like just a gaping hole there. Woo! And that's
Woo.
10 minutes, my friend. Well,
Perfect timing. Well, yeah, I mean there is a gaping hole if you want to be technical. Like the trading is not such a nice experience still, even with all our technology and all the advancements. The faster the better. The more competitive you can be as a trader too. Like it'll give you a clear advantage over people trading on other networks, maybe. But I don't know if that's enough of a use case. I'm more interested in blockchains that are looking to onboard like quote unquote Web 2 companies. So the ones that are the most friendly and intuitive. Like you see, as much as I'm not a huge fan of Polygon, they seem to have massive traction with real world companies. Same with Solana. Solana has been particularly attractive for gaming studios because of that high transaction speed, and that makes sense to me. But for a network just for trading, it doesn't really. I mean, I'm not a big trader, so it wouldn't really be something I use if that's the main use case for it. But I think there's enough here to warrant like taking a deeper look, obviously, because it's a layer one and it deserves more attention and time when you're going to do due diligence. So it's at least that interesting. But one thing that worries me a little bit, I think it's on a Cosmos network, so it's gonna be leveraging Cosmos as its base layer security, kind of like Ethereum does with its layer twos. But I'm very worried about new networks and what they're doing to mitigate against security risks. And I think we spoke with someone recently that was telling us about quantum computing and how that's coming in the next year or 2 years, and it's going to absolutely devastate most of these lesser layer ones that aren't deserving. So I'm worried about that. It's making me want to just trust a very few select layer ones. So I'm not sure about Sei Network as a user.
Yeah, that's
at
a
least.
good point. I think there's a lot of things to consider here. And, this goes back to the premise of the series, which is how much due diligence can we do in 10 minutes and figure out if this is type of investment that we would be interested in pursuing, or find enough red flags where we can say, no, not for me. And I think my verdict would be about the same as yours. Of course, like a scalable, a more efficient, a higher throughput layer one sounds fantastic. I want to learn more. But when it comes to layer ones, really,
Yeah.
and this is a message for everybody out there that's analyzing this, you cannot analyze, the viability of a layer one in 10 minutes. And usually what I'm guessing is that
Absolutely
this
not.
layer one, like many of them, have some sort of technical white paper or document that's going to discuss in depth the consensus mechanism, the throughput, a lot of the different technical aspects of what make the blockchain what it is and why it might be different from blockchains that exist out there. And it's not so much a game of like there can only be one, but they have an uphill battle in trying to bring users on board into their network, especially Cosmos. I don't know how much trading is happening on the Cosmos network. If they have to try and target trading that's happening, that's happening in centralized exchanges mostly, or other high throughput networks where people are going to be subject to like very low transaction fees and high speeds, like Solana, for example. But yeah, I mean, I think in that there was some comparison there between like Solana or something where I think they had like double the transaction throughput. I don't know if trading on Solana versus a centralized exchange is like a huge deal to people, like just from the transaction throughput. I think it's more of a decision of users to figure out if they want to use decentralized infrastructure or they want to have easy fiat currency off ramps to their bank accounts, or if they want to have access to certain assets on exchanges or decentralized exchanges versus the other. And so I think like the viability of this depends on a number of factors that weren't really discussed here, but it still seems interesting enough to dive into. And so what I'm guessing is that this is a network that is highly centralized to get that throughput. But at the same time, like I don't know if I've seen enough about like ecosystem backers or partnerships to give me an idea of like how many traders they're going to get on board here. And at the same time, like what is the token use case specifically outside of just consensus and proof of stake that's going to help me understand like, okay, the more users they get on board, is there going to be more value accrual in the token or the coin? So I would definitely dive into it more. I think that's the verdict for me. What do you think, man?
Oh yeah, definitely the verdict. And before I forget, everybody, if you're enjoying this content or any of our content, give us a like or a subscribe or a comment. We love comments, so talk to us, start a conversation. We love to talk to you guys. And yeah, I tend to agree that this absolutely deserves more attention. Like we can't forget that the whole point of the series is to show what is possible in 10 minutes, and vetting anybody that tells you that they can determine the viability of a layer one in 10 minutes is lying to you, or they don't know what they're talking about. So of course this deserves more attention. I'm going to personally look into it, and I think our research team will as well. But it's out there. I think it's going to be released into the wild after or during this streaming of this video once it's live. So I think it's coming up soon. So I'm curious to see what you think is going to happen with it. I think it'll probably do well next bull market because all these layer ones that people kind of forget about will probably pump and everybody will be happy. But for now, I have no idea what it's going to do tomorrow.
What would be
for the
funny
launch.
is if like this completely pivots like from the user perspective, and it doesn't end up being like a trading centric network, but it just becomes another den like base for shit coins and meme coins to launch. I think that's going to happen, right? That kind of seems to be happening with a lot of layer one, layer two launches lately.
Yeah, I think it's just because that's the easiest early entrance into an ecosystem. Like the first one in, first one to launch a meme coin usually does quite well because it's like the first proof of life for anything happening on a new network. But I think Base is already shedding that image, so they're not necessarily going to be like a shitcoin den forever. But yeah, I think that's a very good prediction. Like Sei is absolutely going to have, especially if this token factory is live anytime soon. I don't know if that's a day one product, but if it is, there's going to be an exodus of people going and making their own coins and trying to dump on each other.
We should.
It's going to be a mess. So
We
I'm
should
sure we're going to
launch
hear
an
some stories in the
Arcanum
next few
meme
weeks.
coin on Sei day one. Let's do it. Calling all audience members.
I don't know about that.
Help us launch a shitcoin on Sei Network.
Not financial advice.
Oh man.
Definitely don't buy it. Don't buy it. Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're both in agreement that it is definitely interesting. I think there's been quite a few layer ones and layer twos launching this year. Usually they have some good reasons for doing so, like Coinbase launching its own network seems to be a good business move. So I am curious to see what happens in the rest of this year and beyond, especially going into the next bull market for Sei Network. Um, Definitely interesting, and I'm looking forward to learning more about it
Absolutely.
offline.
Well, it's been fun, and we'd like to thank all of you guys again for tuning in. Like Carmelo said, be sure to like this video if you found it helpful, and also reach out to us if you've got a cool project that's come across your table. I think we got to give credit to one or more of our community members for bringing Sei Network to our attention. We didn't know it was launching today. I had no idea. So, as always, thanks, guys. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, ciao.
Well, nice timing.